going back to a deployed situation real quick. When we do key leader engagements and stuff like that, and we go into a village to meet people and provide, food, water, humanitarian stuff in a deployed environment, what are you guys doing from a medical standpoint?
So nobody says no to medicine. That's the easiest way to gain hearts and minds to win that human terrain. So you have to really study up on that clinical medicine. You really have to get your game together. That's not our lane. Like it's definitely more of a civil affairs lane when we talk about medical civil affairs programs or med caps. But when we go to these places, you can actually win a ton of things over just by going inside of their medical facilities and saying, "Hey, this is good or this is bad or let us help you with this." And then the fact that they know, a lot of times they'll call you doctor and whatever else, and we're obviously not doctors.
Not a doctor.
But not a doctor. Yeah, not even close. And when you look at an 18 Delta or somebody that really is just completely focused on some of those clinical medicine or some of those far forward indigenous medicine types, like, yeah, I would never say that we're on par with that, but we do provide that capability to support what it is that we need to do, right? Working in concert with those people, we can be that far forward medical provider, or at least put a medical face to a tactical operation.
Yep, absolutely. So, the next kind of three things I wanted to hit, and we'll start off, but in my mind, these are kind of things that PJs really, really excel at. I mean, you guys are great at doing all the other stuff, which there's history of that, so I don't need to revisit it. But like when I think and I try to describe, what is a PJ compared to an 18 Delta or a SEAL Corpsman or something like that, like these are the three things that I go, this is it. So one of them is high angle rescue. Can you go over what high angle rescue is?
Sure. Yeah. So anytime you're talking about high angle, so it's literally just like there's definitions of what it is. Like medium angle, I think is up to it's like 30 to 45 degrees or something. And then high angle is anything that is technically challenging above like a 45-degree angle, right? So typically what we're referring to there is any terrain that is so steep that you need to be roped in. So you need to like rope and climb through things. Like you can't just like walk up it. So high angle rescue and that roped rescue or that mountain rescue thing is typically what we're talking about there as an aspect of our technical rescue capability. So that's just like a flavor. Inside of technical rescue, there's a bunch of different categories for what it is makes up a technical rescue specialist that we have training on. And, that's everything from extrication to all this other stuff. But high angle or working in a mountainous environment is one of those things that we hang our hat on. And that could be anything from truly, I've had a couple of scenarios where we've hung a pilot, but we've hung people over cliffs, over 200-foot cliffs, and you have to somehow access that pilot. You have to somehow get to them, provide them medical care, and then bring them up. The only way to do so is through very intricate rope systems and very sketchy. I'm terrified of heights, by the way. Like I hate
What a terrible
heights.
job to be part of.
Dude, it's the worst. It is the worst. I am the safest guy on a mountain you have ever seen. You know why? I am triple clipped in, and I'm like the team. I'm not the team leader. I turn into the team mom. I'm like, are you okay? You need to be safe. Are you clipped in? Like,
Here's some
I'm
cookies.
terrified. Hey guys, I brought orange slices. Is everybody feeling okay? But for that technical rescue, that high angle piece, it's super complicated, and you'll die. Tons of people die climbing every single year. Now imagine doing that in an environment where you could get shot. And that sounds like hyperbole, but imagine being on a 10, 12,000 foot cliff in Afghanistan and somebody slips and falls, and now they're on a ledge that's, overlooking a huge drop, and you're in combat and you have to figure out how to find an anchor, do it tactically, access that person and get them. And sometimes it's not even, that high angle. You think high angle all the time, but when we go on ships, there's a lot of stories of guys that have to access ships, and we have to use our rope knowledge in order to bring a patient up. If that patient is out or in a litter or whatever, we have to find a way to navigate through there. And you do it with your high angle skills or your rope rescue skills, and building rope systems and being lead climbers and all of these other things play into it. So that's a very specific skill set that we have. And you're totally right. When I explain what a PJ is to people, I don't compare us to anybody else, because again, comparison breeds adversarial talk, right? Like I don't compare us. I'm not, it's common for people to be like, well, we're like Navy SEALs, but we have medicine, or well, it's like being an Army Ranger medic, but we do this rope thing too. It's not true. We shoot, we move, we communicate, we lead. That's what all special operators do. But then we have gold standard technical rescue. We are technical rescue specialists. We know how to access patients in environments of all types, and we're the masters at it. And then we provide gold level combat medicine.
It's funny. I didn't even think about that. Like, I've been on ships and stuff like that, and we've been doing other training on ships, but I've never been on a ship during an exercise or in real world where we put a medical scenario, or there is a medical scenario that is not, on the deck. So I didn't even consider, doing rope systems to work that. But I mean, like we talk about, I know that you and I were on an exercise out in Norway, me, you, Ibby, and Nick the Bod.
Nick the Bod,
yeah, we got a notification, and this was an exercise notification that an F-16 pilot had punched out somewhere in the mountains. We jump into a frozen lake DZ. We snowshoe, which maybe we should have done something else.
Terrible.
But
that movement.
That was
I remember
awful.
looking at Nick during that movement, and we had to switch people that were breaking and going up over the 4 or 5 terrain features. I remember looking at Nick one time, and he looked at me and he was just like,
yeah,
this is that real stuff, huh? And I was just like, whew.
And full disclosure, because I'm going to be transparent, because everybody knows that I'm self-deprecating, but like the one guy that did not break trail the entire time because the snow was way too high was this guy. So imagine if you had to, like, for everybody out there, imagine if you had to break trail except it was up to your waist, whereas everybody else, it was up to their knees, right? Mm-hmm. That is why I did not break trail. Okay. But yeah. I mean, we did that movement in the mountains up to this cliff, and they, no kidding, hung a dude over the side of a cliff. Like that's ballsy for that guy. Like, kudos to him. But I mean, usually if we're going to hang somebody over a cliff, we're going to hang a dummy. But they, no kidding, hung a dude off the side of the cliff. And then, so rescued him. I did the controller part. And then I can't remember if I did or Ibby, but it doesn't matter. Great exercise, great fun, real world experience, that translate in the real world. So great time. So moving on to the other one. Oh, what's up?
Real quick. Yeah, real quick. I just want to make a point. Like, that's what makes pararescue and really ST, like that's what makes ASOC different. There's tons of really, really good rescue teams that work out in the real world, right? Those guys can use quads to drive all their gear in. They can drive, there's no weight requirements, whatever. We had what we jumped in with. We had to rescue that guy after that movement. And we had to, like, by the way, we had food, water for 72 hours. We had sleep systems. We had our own medical gear. We had our own radios. And oh, by the way, we had a minimal amount of technical rescue equipment, in this case, high angle rescue equipment, but we had to jump it in, right? That's when people are like, oh, well, you guys are rescue specialists. That's a whole thing. Listen, everything is man packable. You have to be able to do it out of your rut.
Yeah. That whole everything's man packable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving on. So Swiftwater Rescue, that is something that I believe is also pretty inherent. I mean, in the civilian sector, you have certain, I think they would be firefighters or maybe even their wildlife service, something like that are trained in it. But this is definitely something that is inherent to pararescue.
Yeah, and it's part of our upgrade. This isn't something that we just go do. Like, no kidding, in your 5-level upgrade, you have to go to a Swiftwater course. And oh, by the way, we do all kinds of water environments, because again, we don't get to pick where these problems are. And if you think about why do you do Swiftwater rescue, some of the most dangerous things that you can do is cross a river, especially on attack, in combat, in tactics, in anything you want to talk about. When you start talking about we have to cross this river, that's a whole thing. You need somebody that can look at this and go, okay, this is the best part, and here's where we're going to put our safety, and here's where the throw bag should go, and here's where we're going to tie back and stay away from this area because it's dangerous. We have to be able to do that. And then if somebody gets trapped, or if something is happening, like, stuck in a strainer, or if we have to do a body recovery, you'll kill the rescuer, period. Like, you'll lose the guy that goes into that unless you have extensive training. So it just goes with the anytime, anywhere mindset that we have. And, I had a good input from a commander of one of the SMUs that I shared an apartment with for like 2 weeks, because he was there and I was there and we were sharing the same apartment while we were doing stuff. He had a really good quote about PJs that I've always internalized. Is he's like, if there's anybody that I want at a table, I want a PJ there, because for 90% of my problems, you guys have the answer. for every single thing that I like, all these wacky contingencies. Hey, I got to cross a river. How are we going to do this? PJ, what you got? Hey, we're going to be walking in this mountain. We might need to rope everybody together to get across this. Hey, PJ, what you got? We're going to cross a glacier. Hey, PJ, what you got?
Always got carabiners. That's what you guys got.
So many carabiners.
Always,
and I got
always carrying carabiners.
Oh, look at it. Oh, what's this rope for?
Yeah, that's a joke for you guys that don't know. They're free.
Always.
PJs have always got carabiners.
Always. Oh, you're a PJ? Okay, name every knot ever then.
Yeah. Build me a 3-to-1 like that. Yeah.
Immediately go.
Yeah. So the other aspect that I think is very PJ specific is kind of the ocean rescue. I mean, yeah, you have the Navy SAR, you have the Coasties as well, but when we talk about middle of the ocean, nobody's out there. You're kind of your duck butt mission type set. I mean, throwing out a Ram Z or a Ram B out in the middle of the ocean because whether it's an aircraft went down or there's a sick sailor or a capsized vessel or something like that is very PJ specific.
Yeah, and it happens all the time. So I'll just tell my own story. So 2009 or 2010, I think it had to be 2009. I had just gotten to the 321st. We were training a little bit down south. I think I'd been a PJ for about 6 months. So I guess this had to be about 2009. But there was a sick sailor that was in the North Sea that was, 400 miles off the coast of Ireland or off the coast of England. So in a C-130, we had people with 2 Rams packages that were ready to throw those boats out and then go and go to the thing. And then I was on the 60s. And just because of weather, the 60s ended up being the people to do it. So we went out into the open ocean. They hoisted us down. We packaged this guy up, provided him medical care, came back up and brought him back home. But when you look at some of the things that the Moffett guys have done, the Moffett guys just had one of the most intricate rescues that they did, where they actually jumped from the minimum level that they could accept for risk, flew, were recovered by that bigger vessel, and then they spent 5 days treating a traumatic amputation of a guy that had he essentially got his leg trapped in between 2 huge pieces of equipment. I think it was 2 boats that they were putting on, and they had to jump a PJ team in there. But we have a long history of that open ocean. When you look at what the Cocoa Beach and NASA space shuttle mission looks like, the Earth is 70% water. If something happens with a manned space shuttle, it's probably going to land in the water. So they train in rough seas with minimum personnel. Getting to that person, number one, is sometimes half the battle. And then number two, being able to work in that environment is really, really hard. But again, it's one of those things where we train to it, and those specific teams that have those specific missions, they train to it at such a high level.
And you, like how you just glossed over it. So PJ, we talked about it in a different episode, and we'll talk about it again in this one. But like PJ trauma, and this is my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, probably not long-term field care. You guys do it, but that's not your bread and butter. And man, for those guys to treat him for 5 days, that's a long time.
I'm gonna call you down. We've been focusing on long-term field care, like that tyranny of distance. Like it is a huge thing. Like we focus on it way more because, and again, not to compare, but Ranger medics are awesome at their field care. Okay, but I don't have a battalion of people with me. Like if you look at some of these missions, like guys have spent 5, 6, 7 days. There are missions even in Afghanistan where they were unable to be recovered for 48 hours, 72 hours, and they're managing that patient alone with no help for 72 hours. Like that's a completely different level of care. But we focus on it a lot, and it's a completely different game, and you have to be able to step your game up. And oh, by the way, you're going to jump there with a small team and you have to, you got what you got. If you don't bring those things to support that patient, the patient's going to die.
Yeah, it's it's a lot of pressure, but and then going back to the SpaceX NASA thing, right? Man, the ocean is unforgiving, just like nature is unforgiving,
and terrifying. I'm also scared of the ocean.
Funny enough, there's a lot of things that are under me when I'm up on the surface swimming. There's a lot of things.
I just have to pretend. So Brian and I'll let Brian tell this story too, but I distinctly remember being about 20 miles off the coast of San Diego. It was completely dark at night. We were doing work with the helicopters. The helicopters push off. We're in 10-foot rolling seas. We're lit up like Christmas trees so you can see us. Well, guess what else that attracts? Sharks. What's off the coast? What's off the coast of California? Great whites.
Big
so
sharks.
there are Brian and I at night, just in great white territory, lit up like Christmas trees with helicopters that sound like a school of fish. And I'm just like, you know what? This is it. I just got to pretend there's nothing else here. But there it is.
That's the most intimidating part is, one, you're not at the top of the food chain anymore, and then you have no idea what's underneath you. But you got to be okay with it. You just got to go, hey, all right, whatever.
Okay,
no big deal.
Here we go.
Yeah, can't do anything about it anyway. So
right.
May as well not worry about it. But yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing. You get sick sailor on a vessel, you get the NASA thing, manned mission. Like, they need help. You're going out. The weather isn't probably, just because things went bad and that's just the way things go. The weather's probably not going to be ideal. Neither is the sea state, but you got to get out there because that's what we do.
Well, and if you think about it too, I explain this to young guys, it's never going to be a good time to go. People don't call you for help. People don't think forward and think, hey, this is going to be a problem, because they would have been able to avoid the problem, right? The weather's going to be terrible. The combat situation is going to be the worst possible that you can ever go into. The patients are going to be close to dying by the time you get there. Like, you're going to be so far down. By the time they finally go, oh God, we need the PJ team, it's already the worst scenario possible. It's
too
already
late, brother.
Too late, brother. Let's go. Like, you don't get to choose the time and the place, right? Like, you're going to have to go to that scenario.
Yeah. And that's it's not, I don't say this to denigrate all the amazing actions that have happened in Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, and all that kind of stuff. But, all these decorations that you hear about, it's because things went wrong and people got put into situations that were not good and they did extraordinary things. That's all it is, right? Again, that's not diminishing what the folks have done, but it is because a bad situation happened. It's just the reality of it. But
100%.
So parting shots about personnel recovery.
Listen, personnel recovery is it's my favorite mission, right? It's what I connected to the entire time, and it's why I wanted to be a PJ. Personnel recovery is an overarching term, right? Like we talked about, it can be a million different things. The reason why personnel recovery is so awesome, and the reason why I love it, is because you have to be able to think on your feet and fix problems. It is the biggest problem set. When I look at you and I go, this is impossible, pararescue men look you back in the face and they go, no, it's not. Watch this. You go, there's a guy on top of a mountain. He's dying. He's hung over the side of a cliff. You can't access him. You're going to have to hold on to this patient for 72 hours. You're going to have to fight your way in, or hopefully sneak your way in, get this guy, and then somehow get out. And oh, by the way, the only way that you can get in is to hey-ho. Holy cow. That is a problem set that I want to try to solve. And when you look at, all these other things, hey, there was an earthquake. We have lost 200 people, and 100 of those people are trapped in a high-rise building, and there's nobody else that can access these people. Watch this. Watch how I can affect this scenario. So that's the best part of being inside of the personnel recovery area, or working personnel recovery for me, is that, yeah, it sucks because you deal with a lot of death. You deal with a lot of times where the situation is too bad you couldn't help, and you lose patience, and that sucks. But I got to be honest with you, there's nothing more rewarding than dedicating your life to the simple motto that we have, which is, that others may live. I'm here to respond no matter what time, what place, what situation. And I'm going to go there knowing full well that my job is to get them out, and I might not come out. That's pretty righteous, man. I really dig that.
And on that note, we'll wrap it up. Make sure you slide into our DMs or shoot us an email at info@onesready.com. Visit us on our website, buy some merch. We've got a whole mixture of t-shirts, hoodies, hats, stickers, all that kind of good stuff. And then if you're following us on YouTube, or if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and then make sure you're following all four of us. Well, follow all four of us and the Ones Ready account on Instagram. Appreciate you tuning in. Later.
Cheers. Train hard.